is up, guys, and welcome back to the Roush Performance Esports page, the official page of Roush Performance. And oh man, I'm getting excited because we are hanging out at Daytona for the RoushParts.com Duel at Daytona. And this is a big deal for the Roush team. Let me just tell you guys, we have absolutely dominated the Duel at Daytona this year with not one win, but 2 wins. So we're gonna come back, revisit it right here on iRacing, and we're gonna see these guys throw it down. And let me just tell you, you better hang on to the very end. If you know Daytona, you know things get really exciting on that last lap. So things are getting ready to kick off here. We're hanging out with Joey Atterbury, Jack Roush Jr. We might have some special guests popping in. I heard Chris might be popping around. And also, we got some awesome partners, Continental Tire, Haggerty Motorsport Reg, and VRS. And let me just tell you, we got some wicked prizes today, and Joey's actually going to kind of talk us through that.
Yeah, I actually was just in contact with Mr. Busher right there, and he's getting ready behind the scenes, so hopefully he will be joining us here in just a few minutes. Trevor, you mentioned the prizes. Tonight we are giving away some awesome stuff presented by Virtual Racing School, VRS, as everybody knows it. The points winner tonight is going to be taking home a 1-year VRS subscription, and that's not all that we got up for grabs. Each Duel winner will also be taking home a 3-month VRS subscription. We got more. Pole position, which the cars are out there qualifying right now. Pole position's going to get a 1-month VRS subscription, and then once we get some of these fancy guys in here into the booth, we're going to go ahead and give one away at random later in the race. So make sure that everybody stays in there, stays racing, because your opportunity to win isn't just at the checkered flag tonight.
Definitely. Jack, we have seen some great success here at Daytona, the Daytona 24-hour, Daytona 500 from the Roush Fenway, and now Roush Fenway Kozlowski team. What are some early memories that you have of Daytona? Is it walking around the pits? Is there something that you always remember about Daytona?
Yeah, it was, I think, gosh, what year was it? I had to be in middle school, and then my freshman year of college, I went there a few times with my dad growing up. I loved traveling with my dad for the road racing stuff. This was pre-NASCAR, and strangely enough, you know, many years later with Joey on my team, we had the chance to race there, you know, race the road course circuit. Of course, tonight we're racing something different. This is the oval, and this is a great configuration as well. But yeah, Daytona has a lot of special meaning for us. A lot of people out there might not know this, but just in road racing, my father has had teams there 10 times, and he's won every time he went. So yeah, those were very big shoes to fill when we took our red Mustang there to battle.
Absolutely. And guys, that wasn't only 10 wins. That was 10 wins in a row. It was absolute domination of the Roush team hitting Daytona, which I think we are going to see today. We got some guys representing the Roush team out here. Some great paint schemes already. It looks like they're already logging some laps. I believe that they're just wrapping up qualifying about 17 seconds here. But Joey, we're looking up here at some super quick times. And I mean, we're looking at 49.7 at 20 laps. I know that there's a 30-minute timer or limit per race here, but kicking off this first set of duels, I feel like this thing's going to move pretty quick at 49 seconds here.
Yeah, definitely. Qualifying has officially wrapped up right now. It was just a 5-minute solo qualifying. And I actually think that we're going to have Chris Busher join us in the booth right now. So Trevor, if you and Trevor want to run down this qualifying order, I'm going to go hop out and make sure I get Chris in here to join us.
Absolutely. And guys, one thing I also wanted to mention, we got Trevor McClure in the booth as well. He's going to be our eye from the sky. And let me just tell you, there is an awesome spot here at Daytona. I'm sure Trev can tell us all about it. Trev, I know it's quite a hike up there, but once you get up there, I'm sure you just have to take in the view.
Yeah, from the roof of the Daytona International Speedway, you can see the Atlantic Ocean and halfway to Disneyland up there, as well as everything going on within the track. But, yeah, actually, if you look up high, my spot when I spot for the Daytona 24-hour is right in the middle of the F and the R in of and racing there. It's right above the start-finish line. And you can see what the starter is going to do and what she had for breakfast. So, like you said, there's a great view on top of the roof. It's tough to get there, but view is worth it.
Heck yeah. And you guys are seeing that official starting grid sponsored by Continental Tire. Big shout out to Continental for always supporting us from the very beginning here of our esports venture here. We got some familiar names in there. Look at there's Cody Riggs taking up 11th place. He's going to be in that Long MacArthur Ford Mustang up there. Cody spends a lot of time on the circle track side, so excited to see him. Check that out. We got Connor Berry, Alex Fafinski. We got a lot of awesome names in there. I saw Campos in there, Jim Johnson. A lot of familiar names, but it looks like Jeffrey Souza taking up that pole spot with a 49.7. Man, and this is such close times. Obviously, we're here at Daytona. Times are going to be tight all night, but following Jordan, Chris Papa, Jeffrey Marble, Trenton McMillian. There's Trenton. Trenton's been around for a good while here on the Roush Performance Esports and always a top contender. All right. Joey's getting ready to pull Chris over as these guys are filing in behind. Hey, for extra credit, if you guys know what model Mustang that is, but I will tell you, it is equipped with an M90 Roush supercharger. All right. And Chris Buescher just in time as we're getting ready to take that green flag. Chris knows a little bit of something about Daytona. Chris, what's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. Just here come hang out with y'all for a little bit this evening and see if the iRacing Daytona turns out the exact same way as the real Daytona.
I'm looking for your car out there. Has anyone gone with Chris's paint scheme? Let's see here. Gonna have to look through the field.
You know, I think there's a couple RFK tribute cars, and one of them, Chris Papa, I want to draw attention to his car out there. He is going to be, let's see here, let's run down to third place right there. That car might look pretty familiar to you all.
Check that out. Roush Performance Esports. I haven't seen that yet on a car. I'm digging that.
Yeah, and I know that Chris is still getting the whole stream pulled up on his side of things right now, but the pace car is going to dive down pit road for everybody watching, and Jeffrey Souza is leading this field down to the green flag right now. And Trevor, we have a green flag in racing of Duel number 1 here at Daytona.
Jeffrey Souza, pole leader, holding there out front, going into turn 1. Chris, I couldn't even imagine what the emotions feel like pulling off of that front row, just knowing that all these cars are just as hungry as you are starting off Daytona.
Yeah, it's no doubt always a little bit exciting going into turn 1, but in a way, it's all relative, right? If everybody else is going the same speed around you, you feel like you're not quite moving yet. So it's really only once you get fully wound up that you feel that sense of I don't know about danger being the right word,
yeah.
but feel that sense that you're in a little bit of a hairy spot.
Okay, so what activates the pucker moment? Because there has to be a pucker moment, especially here at Daytona.
Usually when you turn around backwards.
Well, the Ricky Bobby moment.
Yeah. I mean, you're trying to stay away from that. As long as you're not backwards, usually you're in a lot better shape.
Well, I guess if you are backwards, good thing that Jack had his hands in on the old roof flap, aka the Jack flap, to hopefully keep you grounded as long as possible. But I can understand that.
Done well by me, yes. The only upside down moments I've had have had nothing to do with aero catching the car, so it's saved me multiple times.
So Chris, looking at this action on screen, I know that you're getting up to speed on the iRacing side of things, but to relate it to the real world viewers, it looks like we've got 2 packs right now, a lead pack and then also a pack of about maybe 7 cars that have dropped back maybe just a couple seconds. Do you have a preference on where you want to be in these super speedway races? Also, considering that this duel is a shortened duel only at 20 laps.
Yeah, with only 20 laps in it, you really need to be hustling to the front, is my opinion. Now, I can understand the trying to hopefully be in that safe zone, so to speak. We do a lot of capturing numbers, work through a lot of data, and in years past, there's always been statistics that told us 1 through 4, your likelihood of being caught up in a wreck is, call it 15%, and then 5th through 25th would be about 60%. Not real good odds. And then you would have the back few cars where you're pretty much only about a 5 to 10% chance of getting caught up in something. So I can see it playing out in several different ways. But what we have noticed is lately, with the drafting package that these cars have created, really, and some of the more aggressive blocking that has had to happen to stay up front in recent years, the numbers do not show any safe zone. There's no place where you can actually avoid the probability of being caught up in something, so you just have to go race hard.
I love that. You know, that kind of overrules the engineering, you know, the numbers on the paper, and it says, hey, Chris, you got the steering wheel, you got the pedals, go out and race the car. And I love that. That's pretty cool to hear. Something else I want to talk about here, Chris, what's the difference between the energy and the lines that you feel out here? In iRacing, it really is more just kind of drafting. We do get the side draft into effect, but we're right on board. The cars are only 2 wide right now. Do you feel like the cars are in the air is pretty stable with 2 wide? When does it start to get really nervous out there?
Yeah, I would say 2 wide is pretty safe. 3 wide at Daytona gets tight quick. It's not like Talladega where you have that room to really, if you wanted to be 4 or 5, 5 wide's pushing it, but 4 wide's doable. 3 wide at Daytona is that pucker factor, right? So 2 wide, it's the cars not on the front row, but as you get into that pack some, where you see a lot of cars moving around a lot more, the car just gets really light. The steering gets light, the feeling gets light. You just don't feel like you're in the racetrack, and it's just a dirty air issue. It's what we do for speedway cars to try and get the maximum speed is basically take away any downforce that we can efficiently. And we really don't worry a whole lot about handling. Now, you do have to have a certain amount when we go to these things to be able to make aggressive blocks, aggressive moves. You have to be able to withstand a push like we see him doing to the front there on the outside row, but you have to be able to take those pushes and be able to be a good pusher in order to really find yourself at the front and with the opportunity to win these races.
You guys are hearing it here first. Insider knowledge from inside the NASCAR Next Gen Cup cars with the driver of the number 17 Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing car, Chris Buescher, joining us here in the booth tonight. Man, it's just I'm happy to have you joining us. For everybody that doesn't know, Chris is a true student of racing. He's been racing. Chris, when did you start? When did you do your first laps, would you say?
First laps, I was 6 years old on a motocross bike, if that counts. And I made a few years in motocross on little 50cc bikes. I got run over in front of my mom when I was 9, and that pretty much ended my racing career at that very moment. So through a little bit of creative persuasion and
we got a wreck on the racetrack. Sorry to interrupt you, Chris. I think he's going to bring out the yellow flag right now. This lead group definitely had a big wreck, and I think maybe 10 cars or so involved. This gives the advantage to that pack that was just kind of hanging out back there. They avoided this whole mess.
Man,
and
that
there
is
it
a
is,
tough
the
break.
statistics, right?
Yep, there it is. 21 of Cody Riggs, that Long MacArthur performance. Oh, man, that is a tough break for Cody. Let me just tell you, Cody, I've watched him live. He's always a front runner. You can tell he was working his way to the front. But unfortunately, Chris, I couldn't imagine the pit in your stomach feeling that, obviously, on iRacing, but then also going to the real-life side of things. That would be pretty tough. But
I mean, we're all racers, right? So
yeah.
it hurts no matter what you're competing in. I don't care if you get spun out at racing shopping carts out of the Walmart parking lot. You're going to be upset about it. So,
no, definitely.
Definitely a tough break right there, and honestly, just a product of pushing, right, and blocking it and everything that you have to do. It comes with a very high risk.
Well, and speaking of that, Chris, I'm sure that there's a pit in your stomach, obviously, when you get into wrecking a car. But I got to ask your boss, Jack Roush. Jack, unfortunately, when it is racing, as Chris just said, when a car gets into some trouble, what kind of feelings are going through your head right at that moment?
Well, you worry about the safety of the driver, first of all, and when your prospects fall so far below your expectations that you can't make a compromise. It's awful hard to accept sometimes. I know I went to Daytona with a number of road race cars, and I had great luck for a dozen times before I went there with a Cup car. And when I realized the pitfalls of speedway racing in a Daytona car that was so much different than what I'd had success with, it took me 18 years to win the first Daytona 500. And I won the first 18 road races. I went there in a row with Trans Am cars and four-cylinder front-wheel drive cars, and Trans Am and GTO cars.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a huge high of Roush, and it's something that we still talk about many times and share, even on the Roush Performance side of going to Daytona and dominating 10 wins in a row, and obviously more races to win after that. But Jack, now obviously it's not just Roush Fenway, it's Roush Fenway Keselowski, bringing Brad on the team. What has this first year been like? There's been a lot of highs. Started out really strong with the dual wins with both Chris and Brad. We've seen Chris win at Bristol. We've seen Brad put the pole on Texas. A lot of highs for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, and I know the fans are just loving this year. What is it like adding Brad onto the team and seeing all these highs?
Well, let me respond first to what it's like at the years like generally. You know, we finished not as well as we should have in a third of the races. We had a third of the races that we could have been a factor in the top five, and arguably could have won many of those. So we haven't been able to close the deal as well as we'd like to, but we've certainly indicated that we've got potential at some tracks. Bristol was fairly easy for Chris. It was his favorite racetrack. He just loved Bristol. And we've got to work that feeling into the cars that he needs for mile-and-a-half cars. And the Texas thing was a disappointment. I hope to run better there than we did. We won the first race in Texas when they opened that racetrack with Jeff Burton.
Yeah. Well, no, and I know, and I could speak to this, and I know each and every person watching can speak to this. We have been so just excited to see what RFK is doing, excited to see what you guys continue to do. But I do have one question for you, Chris. What is your favorite thing about working for Jack, or your favorite thing about Jack? So,
one thing, it's fitting as we're watching him line back up at a speedway. I had a few years, about 3 years ago now, where I was over with another team for a short period of time, awaiting my turn to come back into a Roush Cup car and get reunited back at home base. And when we went speedway racing, we had orders back then that we rode around and we conserved our stuff and we tried to survive, and maybe at the end of the day you end up with a top 5 finish. And you know what, it worked sometimes, but it was not fun. And I remember we came back to Roush and got going, and Jack said, I asked what the plan was when we went to Daytona. He said, well, we go to race. And I said, well, you know, it's always there's a risk. And he said, well, that's the speedway tax, he said. And he said, sometimes you got to pay that tax, and that tax comes in the form of losing a race car. But you know what? The only way to win these things is to truly go out there and race and be competitive from lap 1 till the end. And I had so much appreciation for that to say, look, let's go racing. That's what we're here to do. We're not playing the survival game. We're out here to figure out how to win these things, and that's the spirit, right? That's the embodiment of what we're at the racetrack to do each and every week. And that was just so refreshing to hear as we fired up, getting ready for the Daytona 500 that year.
That is awesome, because as we just talked, and there's your speedway tax, everybody. It's currently happening on the screen. Oh man, it looks like Max Bogman of the Wendy's car there got pulled off into that. Looks like Alex Fafinski with there you go, Jack. There's the looks like the P51 or maybe P51B paint scheme there of Alex Fafinski. Fortunately, he paid the price of that speedway tax. Is yellow back out there?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, the yellow flag is out on the racetrack right now. And we're working lap 13 of 20 on the first duel, and we're 17 of 30 minutes into it. So we're looking plenty good on timing and lap count currently. We can keep talking over here.
All right. You know, and so what I was going to say, I guess, Chris, was as you said, I'm sure there's tons of pressure, obviously, getting into the car, but having Jack behind you and those words before a race, as far as, hey, you know, speedway tax happens, but if not, just get out there. That has to relieve some type of pressure as a driver, which is really cool to hear. But Jack, I'm going to flip that one to you. What is your favorite? There's tons of things to like about Chris, or maybe I should call him Christopher. I'm not really sure. I did see that we were kind of going back and forth on that, but there's tons of things to love about Chris, and that's what I always hear in the racing industry, and from our fans on the Roush Performance side. People just don't say, hey, I like Chris Buescher. I love Chris Buescher. Like, you're a great guy on and off the track. I don't think I've seen a single bad thing out there about you, which is super cool. But Jack, what is your favorite thing about Chris?
His risk assessment. He was way ahead of the experience he had. Did not necessarily equip him to be as good as he has been at assessing risk. And he built race cars. He worked in race shops. He gave up his chance to go to college and his focus on academics in high school in order to be around the race cars and the race teams. And he came through that in his young 20s with a judgment that was far above the experience level he had, that was on the conservative side of keeping the car together. And we've had drivers over the years that more than one that would just lose their focus and couldn't run 500 miles or 3 hours without tagging the wall and taking the car out of contention. And if Chris wrecked the car, it was because it needed to be wrecked that day. It wasn't because he was being careless with it. And that gave me confidence to push him to do all he could do so that he didn't feel restrained.
That is great, and again, that's got to feel good as a driver to get that type of support from you, Jack. How cool is that? All right, guys, looking at lap 15 of 20, Trevor McClure hanging out there up in the spotting position. Are you seeing anything out of the ordinary, Trevor? Does this look pretty normal to you at the moment?
Seeing a whole bunch of those guys miss that 40% mark that Chris was talking about in terms of incident avoidance in the middle of the pack. Just not a lot of guys' day out here, but speedway pack racing, right? If something goes wrong, you're going too fast to have too much to react to it. You have an instant to pick a lane. Maybe you got a little help from your spotter, but you're taking your line, you can't change it, and you just got to hope sometimes that there's nobody sitting in your way.
All right.
I want to echo that. And for everybody who hasn't been listening on right now, we have the one and only Jack Roush Sr. joining us a little bit for this esports race, as well as Chris Buescher. And always excited to have these two great names joining us. We also have Trevor McClure, real world spotter, out there helping us call all of the action. And Trevor, I want to toss it back to you. They're still under yellow. They're going to be going back to green this time. Not a whole lot has changed. The 42 of Carson Bowers leads the way up front with Chris Papa in second place, but we're working 5 laps to go right now. Going to be coming to 4 laps to go. So I think things are going to start to get a little bit closer up front. And Chris, how much does that tension in the air change when it gets down towards the checkered flag like this?
Well, we're in the home stretch now, and I would say that it doesn't matter that this is a 20-lap race. If this was a 200-lap race, this is coming down to that window of it's time to get the job done, right? It's time to figure out how to position yourself, or in the instance of Carson and Chris Papa on the front row there, they've done a good job of positioning themselves where they're in the driver's seat and they're in a good place. It's going to be about how aggressive can you be blocking, and hopefully you've got something underneath you where you can take a good push and are ready for that. We have thinned out the field pretty aggressively there pretty quickly just in the last couple of laps, and I think it's time to get aggressive with it. And I know that feels like that's what it's been from the drop of the green, but now's the time to go.
All right, there it is, green flag. Both cars up front, the Roush Performance Esports cars. Bowers and Papa there. Looks like Cunningham's looking down low, but getting that big push from John. Is that Johnson up there? See, he worked his way up. Looks
I
like
was going to say that. We echoed a lot of things we were talking about, especially risk assessment, but our good friend Jim Johnson worked his way up from 27th. He's gotten those lucky 30% odds and missed all of these big wrecks, and he's got himself leading that well-developed middle lane here going down the back stretch in turn 3.
It is 3 wide going through turn 3 at Daytona right now. We're going to be coming up to 3 laps to go. Everybody on the screen right now, that white and purple car of 42, Carson Bowers leads the way over the 13 of Chris Papa. Jacob Stuyvesant in 3rd place, and that's 4th place of Bob Cunningham. That's your top 4 really in single file order right now. That 5th place car of Gary Sack III trying to make the middle groove work, but he really needs energy from behind, and it's calm right now for the front 5. And then I also want to look at 6th place right there. That's Justin Kirby protecting that yellow line. He says, I want to keep it painted down here, especially around the corners. Chris, if you were kind of in 6th place right now with this big head of steam, where are you going? Are you going middle, or are you going on the bottom still?
I'd say that the one thing about the bottom is, and with it being single file up at the front right now, you have good chances. You have a good opportunity to get a good run. You can move around and try and make a hole and get back in line. But if this thing double files up at the front and you get on the bottom, you're kind of trapped. There's nothing you can do. There's no place where you can go with the yellow line rule. You're in a position to where you're at the mercy of your lane. So I think there's something to be said about having the opportunity to move around and be up in that middle lane to where you can try and protect. But the pace and the energy is definitely in the lower lane right now.
I tell you what, the 85 of Justin Kirby went from 6th to 3rd in that middle lane with a big push, but then the 13 of Chris Papa got really aggressive on that low lane, really pushed the 42 out front. But here we go with the middle lane. Trevor McClure, I want to come in with the spotter's eye view. What are you seeing between the 2 lines?
Oh, I'm seeing that middle upper line, whatever you want to call it, that's developing now. It's gaining popularity, which means it's gaining steam and gaining energy, and it looks like that's going to take the lead here by a nose going through turn 2. More and more guys are jumping on that train, literally and figuratively here.
Yeah.
And we got one little tap there. Oh, they got a big tap.
Big tap.
Yeah, we've already taken the white flag, so this is going to continue out front. The number 58 of Justin Kirby right now, your leader, over the 42 of Carson Bowers. That's also Gary Sack and Nathan Fuller in the top 4. We're having just a few connections issues with some of these cars, and it looks like Justin Kirby might hang on here. They're coming to the flag. Let's see who comes in. No, it is going to be Bob Cunningham up top in the 12. Stealing the win away on the top side. My goodness. What a race. What a finish out there.
What a race. You know, and Jack, I have to ask you, on the last lap there, if you had a chance to get on the radio and say one thing to your driver on the last lap, and he's sitting there in second position, what are you going to tell him? What are the words of wisdom that you're going to instill in him to make sure that he goes for that podium?
If you got a chance to pass in the last half of the last lap, it's checkers or wreckers.
That's exactly that's perfect. That is perfect. You hear that, Chris? So for next race, just keep that in the back of your head, okay?
Absolutely. Well noted.
Well noted.
And that move like that's not for 3 laps early. That's the last half of the last lap.
Oh man, well you guys, we definitely didn't hold back on any action there. The first race of the RoushParts.com Duel at Daytona. What an exciting race. Bob, was it Bob that took it away, or was it Kirby there?
It was the number 12 car of Bob Cunningham, our Duel number 1 winner tonight. He will be receiving a 3-month VRS subscription courtesy of VRS, and yeah, congratulations to that number 12 car on the Duel number 1 win.
That was great. And Jack, thank you so much for hanging out with us for the first part of the dual race. I know that you're getting ready to run here, but we all wanted to say thank you from everyone here on the Roush Performance Esports page, everyone watching. We got tons of thumbs up and likes as soon as we brought your face onto the screen here, so I think we might need to bring you on. Apparently Joey and I just don't do it for the people, so we're gonna have to bring you on more. But again, thank you so much, Jack.
I appreciate the invitation, and I certainly enjoyed watching it from your guys' perspective.
Awesome. And we'll see you here soon.
Good luck.
All right, guys. Wow, what a race.
Yeah, talk about a legend in the sport being able to join us for that race here. I mean, it is not every day you get somebody like Jack Roush Sr. coming in and helping out, and wow, what an opportunity. That was awesome.
No, definitely. It was so funny. I was looking at the chat live right there, and next thing you know, it was like everyone starts commenting, all these likes and loves start popping up, and I'm just like, what's happening here? And then I look down, I click Jack Jr.'s text, and he's like, hey, my dad's on. And I'm like, oh man, so cool. And Chris, Chris got on his P's and Q's real quick. No, I'm just kidding. Chris is always on his P's and Q's.
I did. I had to straighten up.
It's something that Jack Sr. mentioned that I want to echo about Chris is, yeah, your risk assessment, but it's more about how you were brought up in racing. And for everybody that doesn't know, Jack Jr., the Grand Am program way back in, Chris, what year did you work on that? Was that 2012?
That would have been maybe 13 or 14? 13, I believe.
You had just won an ARCA championship. So here's this young hot shoe circle track driver coming up through NASCAR, and he's taken the opportunity to come and work on the road race team to learn more about racing, learn more about the cars. And let me tell you, he did not have a glamorous job where he got a golf cart in the past and he just hung out. He was slinging tires, he was helping clean cars, he was doing everything under that tent. And I think it just helps build you into the racer that you are. And yeah, like I said, I just wanted to echo that history that you've gotten racing, and I really think it comes out and shows in how you race out there.
Oh
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, it's something that I've enjoyed working on race cars or really street cars even my whole life. My dad was big in the hot rods and working on them, and just kind of caught a bug early and and kind of stuck with it. I will say, when I came over to the Grand Am side, I had to buy a whole lot of metric tools to be able to work on those Mustangs. Everything was 17 millimeter and 14 millimeter, and I didn't have all that stuff in the box, so it got a little bit more expensive than it did helping make any more money, but it was a very good time. I did learn a lot in those few months at the beginning of the year. I actually got moved around through several different departments that year and got to see a lot of the behind the scenes of how everything works. Got to go to the carbon shop and see how a lot of things were made there and work on molds and pulling carbon out of freezers and getting stuff cut up in templates, and got to go to electrical shop, and they didn't keep me there long. I'm not good with electronics, so which is the reason I don't have video here tonight, because I am basically allergic to technology. So we still don't have Wi-Fi out the house here. We're still working on internet, but this Verizon connection is working great, and I'm actually on the YouTube on a live stream on my phone as well. So I do apologize. I'm about 3 to 5 seconds behind y'all, so I'm catching the wrecks a little bit late, but having a good time, and I appreciate y'all inviting me over here.
No, absolutely. And guys, if you want to learn more about Chris, you can actually go to any podcast platform and type in "You Don't Know Jack." It's the official podcast of Roush, and it's super cool how it's formatted. Obviously, get the hint. You don't know Jack. We're teaching you about whether it's Chris, which is super interesting to kind of hear how he was brought up in and around racing. As obviously we mentioned a few stories here, you can kind of rehear those, but as well as obviously all the success that Chris has seen in racing. So go check it out. You Don't Know Jack. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those platforms. So definitely go check that out. And then don't forget to tune in to the NASCAR races and see Chris park one in victory lane here. We might have to get him a Roush Performance Esports sticker to slap on. You know, I see them changing up your sticker from Chris to Christopher, so if it's that easy, I guess I'll just have to... I'm only about 30 minutes south of you from the race shop, so I might have to make a stop in and slap one on there.
I mean, the fact that Roush is in the name, it can't be that hard to get things done between the two organizations, right?
I think we all know a guy, so we might be able to make
that's
it happen.
right.
Heck yeah. All right, guys. So they're getting ready to grid for the second duel of the night. No, not second duel, the second race of the duel tonight. And, you know, Joey, you always throw little wrenches in here. Normally there's regrids, there's people moving all around. Is there anything that's going to happen tonight that we should know?
You know, apparently I goofed. I could have sworn that there was supposed to be a top 10 invert, but I am looking at our grid right now, and it is our finishing order from race 1, which I'm not too worried about. And actually, let's go ahead and pull up the grid right now, because it will be the results from Heat 1. While they go out on their pace lap, let's go ahead and cover that. I know that the number 12 car of Bob Cunningham took the win there, so he will sit on pole. And then the number 85 of Justin Kirby there is going to be on the outside row in second place. Third place is going to be Jeffrey Souza, followed by Nathan Fuller there in fourth place. Jeffrey Marble is going to be in the fifth. Carson Bowers, Peachy Campos, Colin Arnold, Jacob Stuyvesant, Jeremy Roth rounded out the top 10 there. 11th place, Jacob Stuyvesant, Jeremy Roth, Nick Larson, James Harris, Mike Wright, Gary Sack III, Max Bauman there in 15th. Jim Johnson, Trevor, you mentioned he was looking pretty good up on that top row, but ultimately fell back to the 16th. Tyler Pisonell there in 17th. Chris Papa was also running up front. We'll see if he has better luck here in the second race of the night. Connor Berry, our Roush Esports off-road champion, they're going to be starting in 19th place. Christopher Ricci, Trent McMillian, Alex Fafinski, Cody Riggs, Scott Kostrick, Jordan Sailors is going to round out the 25-car field here that is logged on for this race. Trevor?
You know, let's talk about Ulf Fafinski. Alex and Chris, they are very much like the same model person. You just always see him, you just smile. But Alex has always been in and around the Roush community, helping out events, always stepping up and always involved in these Roush Performance esports. And a veteran, shout out to you. As we take green flag, here we go. We are racing.
Yeah, green flag for the second race of the night. That is the number 12 car, that white and red Motorcraft livery of Bob Cunningham on the bottom line. The green and blue car, that's Justin Kirby leading the top line right now. This is another race that's going to be 20 laps long. We'll see how aggressive the pushing and shoving gets early, and we'll also see if we get that two-pack sort of separation where we get more conservative in the back and more aggressive up front. Chris, this is something that you don't get to do. You only get to race in one race per duel. How would you feel about having to go race in both of them?
Well, it's a little bit tough when it takes a little bit longer to fix cars. But I was just sitting here thinking, all these drivers, they just participate in the first race, and so what lessons do you learn? Because I know that for myself, I was in the second duel at the beginning of the year. I watched the first one. This car was very new to us. I watched Brad go out there and make some good moves and win the race. And one of the interesting things, and it wasn't for good reasons, but at the beginning of the year, there were some major part shortages.
Oh, sorry, Chris. 3 to 5 seconds late there.
There's my delay.
Talk about parts shortages. The 58 got smushed up into the wall, and I'm pretty sure that car probably looks like a triangle right now rather than a square. But yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Chris. We'll have a yellow on the racetrack so we can keep talking with you.
Oh, you're good. I do apologize. Like I said, I'm just a little bit behind. So if you just need to cut me off, then so be it. But no, I was just at the beginning of the year we had part shortages, and so we talked about it. Brad went out in that first heat, and I knew that if he got in an accident and tore a race car up, that meant that I had to ride around in ours. It was not the situation of go race. We had to survive. We had only one backup for the two of us for the Daytona 500 week, and so fortunately he went out there and won his, which not only gave me the green light to race, but also put a whole lot of pressure on me. It said, all right, Brad won, you better go do the same. So it worked out great. We were able to get 2 wins and sweep the duel. It was a heck of a start to our season, but I learned a lot watching Brad's race, and so I'm just wondering what everybody's sitting here thinking about watching the accidents happen, and if you would lay back. And I think we've gotten our answer already. You go race and you take that risk of getting caught up in really one or two people's miscalculation and can end up wiping out a dozen cars so quickly. So unfortunate for a lot of those drivers very early on here.
I think
I'd be racer's perspective, honestly. I love it. Sorry to interrupt you there, Trevor, but it's something that you have to do not only with your helmet on, but I love hearing it that you are out there watching the other races participate and going on, because the notebook, it always gets added to. Your notepad never runs out there, and yeah, the more information you can log, the better you're going to be out there on the racetrack.
All right, well, I am willing to pay the speedway tax, and I'm going to run that car as hard as I can. So there's a really good reason why I am behind the mic and not behind the wheel, because...
Trevor, I thought you were in the pace car.
Oh, that is me. There I am. That is a S197 Mustang powered by a Roush supercharger. That's the M90. Unfortunately, we do not sell on RoushParts.com, but you can get the latest TVS 2650 supercharger, outputting 750 horsepower. So get on it, RoushParts.com, or any of your other parts needs, whether it's suspension, exhaust, cold air intakes. Hey, if you got a latest Bronco, the Roush Performance Pack is out. If you want to add, well, I like to say, I don't know if this is trademarked or we're going to get in trouble, but if you want to put a buck in your Bronco, just go over to RoushParts.com and click that Performance Pack. Do I get in trouble, Jack? Is that good? Is that okay?
No, that was good.
Okay. All right. But we looks like Gonna be lining back up here. You know, I got thinking, Chris, and it's not all the time to be able to have a real life NASCAR driver right here while we're watching iRacing, but is there a safe row? Is being inside or outside when obviously we're racing, is it safer to be inside or outside, or what do you think?
Yeah, in theory, the inside's a little safer, just because the initial accident, the one that you have the least amount of time to adjust for, goes up the track, typically up to the outside fence. And so typically you would say that the bottom is safe because you have that first sight of something going wrong and you can make a decision. Now, that being said, you have the opposite effect when you're down on the bottom, and like we talked about, you have a car or a lane or two outside of you, and your options to move become very limited. So I would say that someone's going to tell you that there's a little bit of a statistical advantage on one lane or another, but I see that they both have advantages and disadvantages in my eyes. So at this point in the race, you would think that both lanes should be fairly safe as everybody gets a feel for it. But mistakes happen really quick, and there's really no safe place to get away from them at Daytona or Talladega.
Well, we are about to find out again as the lights are going out in that pace car. Looks like we got Cunningham and Souza up front here, followed by Marble and Campos. Look at Campos getting up there, and Stuyvesant rounding out our top 5 here at theroushparts.com. Duel at Daytona, and you guys are watching live. We got Chris Buescher in the booth with us, Jack Roush Jr., Trevor McClure, and Joey Atterbury, and we are following the second race here of the Duel. Green flag.
Yeah, we got green flag on the racetrack. That is the number 4 of Jeffrey Souza on the outside. That was the initial pole position winner of the first Duel, so we know that he's got a fast race car when he's just by himself out there, but look at that energy in the bottom lane. It really just kind of took off. And Chris, talk to me about that. When you're accelerating up through the gears, how important is it to have someone helping you behind? Or is that not really a factor? It's more the jump.
Well, first of all, the Ford EcoBoost throwback on the 4 car, killer. Looks really good. Second, the restarts are all about the help you have behind you. I will say that most of our decision making when it comes to the choose rule, well, I guess you don't get to choose the whole field, but from the front row is which car do you think will give you better help on the restart from behind. It's all about the push. How do you get momentum maxed out as quick as possible? So absolutely looking for anything you can do to get hooked up as quick as possible and make that process efficient up to terminal velocity, right? So it's always important to get the right push, and I think that's why we're seeing the bottom really shoot out ahead, is that they're just getting the right group of cars together. They're staying tight, they're pushing, and it's really propelling them out early on, and then the top row is a little bit slower to organize.
Yeah, you can really see there the one car popped out to make his own third lane, and he lost about 10 positions there. But Chris, I wanted to ask you, since this getting the jump and everything is really about the popularity of the lane and the popularity contest of who's liking which lane, that's something your spotter's really going to help you out with, right? When you're picking that one lane, you're going to say, hey, most of these guys that are with you have been running low, been running high. Let's go with the flow. Let's pick the low lane. That's going to be the safe one, because we know 7 out of the next 10 guys are going to want to go low anyway.
Yeah, I would say that there's you never feel like you have any friend at the racetrack until it comes down to a restart and somebody's begging you to push or to get in line or to try and then the spotters all become really friendly really quick, right? It's every other time you're at a race and somebody does something and you scream up on the radio, go tell his spotter that was the dumbest thing and this and that, and they always just shake it off like, yeah, all right, it's not the spotter driving the car, right? But when we go speedway racing, it's all about that communication. How do we get everybody together to maximize the potential of our lane first. And if we can get our lane out front or our group out front, then we'll go back racing again. Then you're not friends anymore, but for that split second, it's all about figuring out how to get that jump. So as we can see, that outside lane or middle group really picking up a lot of energy there for a second, and then it just can't quite stay connected and really loses that connection, and it just drops out a lot of speed quick.
So and it seems like once those guys do pack up like they are now, that middle groove is really getting going, especially coming out of turn 4. It seems like a lot of guys, like you said, are just jumping back down low between 1 and 2 and kind of hanging there down the back straight.
I would say, there's a little bit of momentum that comes from the top side of coming down that banking when you come on the initial backstretch, so you can build up a lot of momentum. But it is hard. It's a little rougher up high, and so it's a little harder to stay hooked up and be stronger up there. And I don't know how all the track content comes through iRacing. I know they do a really good job at scanning to get it as accurate as possible, but those bumps can make it really hard to drive, especially at the top of 1 and 2. So I think that's why, and man, we had a big slide down there, but I think that's why you see 1 and 2, it's very rough through the middle and top lane, so it's hard to get that connection and build that momentum.
We do have a yellow flag on the racetrack. I want to interrupt you real fast. I just want to let everybody know we have a yellow flag. Currently our leader, I want to give a shout out, the 281. That's Trent McMillian right now leading the field. He's a regular esports competitor. Trevor McClure, you've heard this name before. And one thing that I want to jump back to Chris Buescher about is he mentioned the number 4 car of Jeffrey Souza in that paint scheme. We only have about 8.5, 9 laps left, and Chris is going to be granted the opportunity to give away a 1-month VRS subscription at random tonight, Chris, by the end of the checkered flag. So why don't you go ahead and look through the names that we've been calling on. If a name particular stands out and how they've been racing, or even if it's just a paint scheme, or even if it's just a random name that you like seeing, you're going to be giving away one of those prizes at the end of the night tonight.
Absolutely.
All right.
And
I'll be sure to keep an eye out. And I'm pretty sure Trenton was the one that was always kicking my butt when we were off-road racing in the trucks. So doing a good job on asphalt too now.
Trent,
He is.
yeah.
He does mix it up quite a bit with you out there. I know that you guys have come in fender contact quite a few times in those Pro 4 trucks.
Yeah, I think everybody hit everything in the Pro 4 trucks, though. I'd like to see somebody that did not lose some kind of safety rating in those events, because they were brutal, but they were a lot of fun, too.
They absolutely were. And guys, if you want to have your chance at asking Chris a question, all you have to do is drop it in the comment section below, no matter the platform that you are watching on, whether it's Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. Just go and drop it in the comment section, and we will run it by Chris here. All right, lap 12 of 20 as we're getting ready to wrap up the Duel at Daytona, sponsored by RoushParts.com. And again, guys, if you are looking to add that additional horsepower, whether it's to your Mustang, your F-150, your Super Duty, your new Bronco, let Roush take care of you. Obviously, you guys have seen the success that Roush has had in racing, and if that's, it's so funny because Chris, I'm curious if you ever get this question, because Roush is such a big company, and Roush Fenway Kozlowski and Roush Performance are normally the two main factors that when people think Roush, they think either racing or they think Mustang. But it's so funny to tell them, like, hey, we're kind of like the smaller portion of the company. It's definitely not the hobby, but we're more of the fun side, but there's so much more as far as engineering excellence. And let me just tell you guys, that trickles down from all the programs that we support, whether it's aviation, entertainment, military. There's so much to be proud of, but it's cool to think that we take all of that information, we're able to then output it not only into our race team, but also into our Roush Performance vehicles and parts. So if you guys are looking to add a little bit of engineering excellence and the Roush name and heritage of what follows that, head over to RoushParts.com. But yeah, I guess, sorry, Chris, as I rolled that into that, but do people ever ask you about other sides of the company, or just typically it's the racing side?
No, I think it definitely comes up quite often. A lot of people know about Roush Performance and the Roush Racing side, and I think it's neat because even I don't, or I say even I, but I've been through several of the facilities up there on the Roush Industries side. I've been told many times what all goes on. I've seen where Jack's P51 engines are rebuilt over the course of months of hard work. Seen some of the rides for Universal Studios, I believe, is the group, and some of the roller coasters they build, and the military applications, and propane conversions, and we've had electric box trucks down at the shop doing testing. It's really pretty wild to understand how far their reach is and how much really goes on outside of just racing, and it's really been neat for me to see and learn about it through the years. So it's definitely more than most people realize, and more than I realize by a good amount too. I will say what's cool to me is how many buildings are up there in Livonia that are Roush owned. I got to come up there with Jack Sr. and go for a few rides in some old Mustangs that he's got in the museum, and felt like Steve McQueen driving in and out of buildings through alleys, and I'm sitting here scared to death, wondering what we're getting ready to poke out into it. And Jack's over here like, oh no, these are all mine. They know I'm coming through here.
Oh yeah, over 3 million square footage of buildings just up in Michigan alone to support our various different programs, as you kind of talked there, Chris. But hey, I'll tell you one thing, Chris. If you ever need a part-time job or off-season, you'd make a great sales guy, because I think you just went over just about everything that Roush has to offer. But no, that's awesome. And actually, as we're getting ready to go green flag, we do have a question that came in from Ted Cook. Chris, how is, let me call green, then we can go back to this here. As Joey takes it, Joey's currently a virtual flag man.
Barney is up there waving that flag, man. But yeah, before we get to that question, we're going to be working 5 laps to go here at the virtual Daytona International Speedway. That's the 15 of Jeffrey Marble getting pushed by the 51 of Jeremy Roth up top. That Kohler paint scheme looks pretty familiar out there, huh, Chris?
Yeah, it's a sharp one as well.
Yeah, it is. All right.
Right back to you, Trevor.
Yeah, Ted Cook asked Chris, how is the handling and your feelings of the next-gen car versus older generations?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's one we're still trying to wrap our head around, honestly. Figuring out so much week in and week out that it's just constantly changing. But I think that we've got a lot better, and we've learned a lot that's made it a whole lot easier to drive, and it made them faster. There's some things that I miss about the old car and some of the old suspension, and man, we just really big impacts right there. And I think I'm dizzy watching here. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think the guys are listening to the broadcast and get so interested in Chris's answers to these questions.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I need to tune it down some, but I think some of the cool things about the car. I'll just point out some of my favorites real fast. The brakes are awesome. They're really good. They're much larger. The fade is almost non-existent. Very impressive there. The sequential shifting is a lot of fun. I won't say that it really makes our racing better or is something that's better than the old car, but it is fun to do a little bit differently there. I would say that coilovers and independent suspension, or at least the coilovers, that's probably long overdue. You think about our old cars. Our Gen 6 cars were based off of, rear suspension was based off of a mid-50s Chevrolet pickup and front suspension off of a Chevy 2, like 60s or early 70s. So what we were running was so far behind the times that it was definitely time for an update. We're just still working out a lot of bugs and kinks here and there, and some of the things that we have to do to make them competitive and make good racing.
Heck yeah. Well, Ted, I hope that answered your question there. And he also said was so happy when Chris won Bristol. It was on his birthday. So happy birthday to you, Ted. Yeah, Chris knew that, and that's why he did that.
Ted's going to have to change his birthday to the Daytona 500. Just to bring that same good fortune.
Do we have anyone's birthday on Daytona 500?
Can you legally change your birth date? That's going to be the new topic here.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's Googling that right now.
Chris, if you can get them to move it to Valentine's Day, I've got one of my sons is born on February 14th. So back it up a couple weeks and we got you covered.
All right. That's what I'm talking about right there. So we're getting close.
Hey, Chris, I got to ask you to extrapolate on that question. As a pit crew guy, a former pit crew guy myself, how much do your pit crew guys love or hate the single lug? I know I'm opening a can of worms here.
Yeah, and I probably shouldn't speak for them. I would say that it's incredible how fast we can get pit stops done. Now, we had sub 9-second pit stops in the garage area this year. That's 4 tires and a certain amount of fuel. Now, a lot of times with our tire issues through the year, we never really did full fuel runs. And so you didn't need to pack it full, and we needed the nose weight, so we left it light on purpose at a lot of times. I think it was just incredible how fast they've gotten it and what they're continuing to learn. I was down at pit practice today, actually, and the guys are working on a completely different choreography to try and find 2/10 of speed for a pit stop, and they're doing well, and it's going to take a massive reboot to try and figure that out, and I think everybody's open to it to try and figure out how to find that speed. So it's definitely shaken up the guys that have been doing it since I can remember being at Roush, guys that were already been there a couple of years and basically were right out of school coming in, that are now veterans in our sport, and they're still working to try and figure out how to find more speed. So it's throwing a huge wrench at it, just like the rest of the car, and we're definitely starting to wrap our heads around it. And I think the crew members are starting to enjoy it a little bit more as it's gotten to understand some of the nuances of that big single lug and some of the things that can go wrong. I think we're getting a lot better with it.
No, and that's perfect, actually, Chris, because the segue into that, we are actually currently scheduling a podcast with one of the crew chiefs and tire changers, to talk through that transition. So we should see that. That might be a post-Christmas, early January episode on You Don't Know Jack. So you've heard Chris's side, and you'll be able to hear those guys' side on going through that transition into the new year. So that's perfect. Glad you asked that, there, T-Bones.
I think that'll be great, and I think what we'll discover is everybody's going to be very confused as to why the penalty was so expensive and so long for having a lug fall off, because the crew chief and the changer are going to tell you that there's no advantage to leaving a lug nut loose on a single lug nut wheel, and it's not like the old car where you purposely put 3 on and left 2 off for the sake of speed. That doesn't happen, but you're still getting penalized like you did it on purpose. So I think that's going to be a pretty big topic, or maybe a good question to start off with and figure out how they're able to word that maybe a little bit more graciously than I just did.
That was always something I dealt with on the 5-lug sports car stuff, was I'd tell the guys, 4 is fine, 3's okay.
Oh, man.
If we need an extra second, you can just leave a nut off. But here we're going back to green.
Yeah, looks like we're going to have Jeffrey Marble in the 15 car leading the field to the green flag. In the 55, Jordan Saylor, something happened to that outside row, and I'm not sure what happened, but we are only going to have one attempt at this green-white checker. We're going to stay green flag on the racetrack. Let's keep the action up front here. Looks like the 35 of Christopher Ricci. He's in that orange car, and it's really about a of maybe 5, 6 right now that's breaking away.
And we have Jeffrey Marble, Christopher Ricci, Carson Bowers, Mike Wright, Connor Berry, and Jeremy Roth in that top 6. Looks like it's anybody's race in that front pack.
Yeah, Trevor, I'm going to keep it here with you with this action here, because we're going to be coming with 1 lap to go right now. That's Jeffrey Marble, Ricci, Bowers, Wright, and Berry all in this top 5. You know what? Include Jeremy Roth in there in that 6th position as well. Trevor, are you seeing which line is going to be faster to the end of the race here?
It looks like everybody's going down low, and if everybody stays there, the order is not going to change. So I think some of these guys may be third back to sixth. If they get together and gang up and make a middle lane, they might be able to make some moves here. But time's quickly running out. We've got about 1.25 miles left to go on this track.
Riding on board there, that was the number 2 car of Connor Berry. The cars are entering turn 3 for the final time right now. The 15 is out front with a heavy push from the 35. We're going to see if they're going to stay hooked up down this short chute here. No, the 35 is going to look to the outside. He's going to get the side draft. Look out for the 14 on the bottom, but the 35, Christopher Ricci, is going to take the win on the high side with that side draft. What a great strategy there. Chris, talk to me. When you're that second place car, how much can you pull that lead car back with that side draft?
That's big. I tell you, that was really good execution. I really expected a little bit more organization from third through sixth there. I thought they could really make a good run at it, but hats off to Christopher right there, right? That was the perfect execution, that you did not have the pressure from behind you, so it was everything out the windshield. So how do you pull out a line? It immediately puts that small parachute on the lead car, and when you tuck down on their quarter panel like that, it is the most infuriating feeling from the car that's being pulled back, because there is nothing you can do to fix that moment. There's nothing you can do to get away from that, especially when you have that yellow line rule down there and you can't get away. It is a miserable feeling that you can't find that speed again. It's gone. That momentum has been taken away from you. So very well done.
Go ahead and rate these donuts here, Chris. We'll best out of 10 here. No rookie scores.
He had a little wall tap there. He automatically gets a point down there.
No, that's a point up now. Let's hope it goes through tech later, so they can't again up.
You know, it used to be the old fourth to first upshift in turn 1.
Jack, what did you see on that? Was there any? I don't know. It was there. Not bad. His victory donuts there. They weren't terrible.
They looked great to me.
There he is as he's pulling it down.
That was an awesome race. Yeah, very impressed. Yes, Chris, thanks for being here with us to share all of your insight.
No, absolutely. Appreciate y'all having me on here. That was cool. It was some good racing. I usually don't get that bird's eye view, even though I was 3 seconds behind y'all there. It is very cool to be able to see everything happening, and really, it's a lot like what we do before races, right? Is when you're studying video and you're watching from TV cameras. It's how did those runs materialize? Who does what well, and what can you do to be better for the next time? So, just a really cool way to watch. Some really good racing there. A lot of carnage, but when you told me we were coming to Daytona, I knew that was going to be the case, so it did not disappoint.
Yeah, definitely. And Chris, I know that we're looking at the results, and we'll have a couple people hop in for some interviews here post-race. Why don't you go ahead, take a look at all of those names, and we'll give you a few minutes here for you to go ahead and pick one out to give away that 1-month VRS subscription here. And Jack, I want to bring you in one more time because you've been a little bit quiet over there. What did you think of all the action tonight from the duel racing at Daytona?
It was a great show. It gave carnage to the people who like to, being a driver, you don't like to get caught up in it, but it is pretty exciting for the fans to see the risk out there, and the consequences for decisions that you make or decisions that other people make. It doesn't necessarily help you to be conservative and hang back when someone crashes right in front of you and there's no way around it. And we saw a lot of that tonight. I personally loved seeing the battle there at the end, kind of seeing how people teamed up or not. I noticed what Chris did there, where third place a couple times tried to pop out and make a move, but didn't get the support from behind, and just lost places. It's a really neat game here at Daytona. With the whole draft and kind of everything else.
Well, it's always good to have you joining us in here. And one person that I want to bring into the booth right now, because he just took home that checkered flag here in the race number 2. We got Christopher Ricci. Take us through that final lap through your eyes and what was going through your mind.
In my mind, I was watching that third place guy, seeing that I had a little bit of a gap, and then I was thinking I was going to stay really committed to the 15 and push and just go ahead and push him to the win. We were strong on that last run coming on the outside, and then when he left the top open and I had the run, I figured I'd just take a chance.
Awesome. Well, we're really happy to have you joining us here. And one thing that I'm going to put him on the spot because we still have him in the booth with us, Chris Buescher. We've got our Duel number 2 race winner here. Is there something that you want to ask a post-race interview question here?
Yeah, well, first of all, proud to see a fellow Christopher in victory lane, but very cool to see that move. And like you said, it's kind of the mindset that I was wondering if that was what was running through your head or not, was watching those cars behind you. Like I said, would have thought there would be a little bit more defensive moves had to be made from behind it, and it just didn't materialize. So great heads up racing to know that you did not have that pressure behind you, and it opened up that opportunity that told you that if you go to the outside and make a move and take that risk, that you're probably not going to lose anything, right? If anything, you keep that second spot, which you were locked into if you didn't make the move. So I just give you huge props for taking that chance, going for it, and very nicely executed side draft to pull that momentum and get that win.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that was it. That was a strategy. I was surprised the first part of the race didn't go as great as I thought it was going to go. I think I was involved in a couple incidents, not that I was a part of them. I just got collected in it. But to come back and finish this way, I was going to be comfortable with second, but like I said, I made a chance, made a shot. If I don't take it, who knows what it turns out to be.
That's right.
Yeah, well, before we let you go, Chris, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to, say thank you to, that helps get it done for you out there on the track?
There's a ton of people.
Chris Buescher. No, I'm talking to Christopher Ricci over here, not you, Buescher.
Chris is so used to. Yeah, Chris is so used to, like, just, he was ready to roll off all his sponsors right there. He was ready. He's just like.
Well, Christopher, the spot's on you. This is my apologies. Have at it.
Christopher,
still the show anytime you want to, Buescher. Still a show. Us Chris's, that's kind of what we do. We take the stand when we can. But right. Yeah, I want to thank my wife for letting me stay up late to do this and being okay with me picking sim racing back up. And then I want to thank the 13 for helping me get started in this race. He kind of put me in the right direction. But thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and thank you guys for putting this on and accepting me in.
Heck yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us there, Christopher Ricci. We do have some more podium interviews as the night went on. Joining us in the booth now is Jeffrey Marble, that second place finisher in race number 2. How was that finish through your eyes, Jeff?
Oh, man, I knew I was a sitting duck with him behind me. But he was pushing for so long, I thought for sure his oil temp would just skyrocket because he was on my bumper for quite a while. And I'm like, well, A, either he's going to blow up or I'm a sitting duck and he's just going to time it right. And it's exactly what he did. He just timed it just right, got the run, completed the pass. I couldn't block him too hard because I didn't want to wreck all of us, just doing stupid stuff. And had I blocked him way up to the wall, I think the 42 car, that white-purple car, maybe would have got us at the line. So either way, you're damned if you do or you're damned if you don't. It was fun, though. I had fun.
No, yeah, it was some great racing out there. And before we let you go, hopefully we see you in future Roush Esports events. I don't recognize your name from anything in the past here, so always happy to have a new face joining us. Is there anybody that you want to say thank you to, give a shout-out to before we head you on your way?
I'm going to give a cheap plug for my cup league that I have. It's on the side of my car. They're Fast Track Sim Racing. We're an open league cup set that runs on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have our own Discord. We're on Facebook. Fast Track is all one word. I'd like to also thank my sponsor, Alloy Wheel Repair Specialists out of Richmond, Virginia. and also iRacingIFlag.com and Martin Sports. They helped my league out tremendously, and I'm glad I could race with you guys. That was pretty fun, and maybe next time we can get Chris Buescher down here, Keselowski, and them guys to come mix it up with us a little bit.
Ooh, sounds like a challenge. You hear that, Chris?
Being called out right there.
Be careful for what you wish for.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us, Jeff. Great job out there.
Yeah, great run.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, looks like we've got a couple more joining us here. I actually am looking for our duel number 1 winner. I think he's still waiting to come into the booth, but we have the second place finisher from duel number 1 joining us now. That's Justin Kirby in the number 85 machine out there. Not so much of a duel race number 2 victory for you, but a good race in the first race. Take us through the whole event in your eyes. This is the first time you're also joining us for a Roush Esports event.
Oh, the second one. I ran one of the Mustang races here earlier this year.
I'm sorry, that's my mistake.
It's of all the things that happen, that's no big deal. Yeah, race 1 was, I had all the luck in the world, and I was just picking the right spots and not getting myself in trouble, and happened to catch a good hole low about on that on that second to last restart, I think it was, or it was the last restart. Got down low, pulled me clear of the top side, and I was able to pull up to the top side and go. And would have been a much different finish if the guys behind hadn't chosen violence and ended up dooring me so that Bob could get by me. But it was still a lot of fun. This is Daytona, and at its best is good, at its worst is my race 2.
Yeah, we noticed a little bit of bad luck there in race 2, collected in a couple wrecks that I saw. Maybe Chris, you talked about having to race rather than hang out at the back. We were talking about that, Chris Buescher, earlier, and you enjoyed the racing aspect. Something that I saw Justin Kirby do, he was actually in that ladder pack in duel number 1, but it ended up paying off for him. Chris, what do you think about that strategy versus just going out and racing up front?
I think there's a time and a place, right? And so it's all about understanding the feeling and the energy in that pack, and there's still been moments where, like we talked about at the beginning, that Jack has given us that green light, go race hard, and but it's meant to be within reason and to make sure that you're still there to race hard at the end, and I think that was that mindset, right? Is let's go be smart about this. They had just come off a big wreck, right, and doubled it up with another one right after that. And ultimately that ended up giving them an opportunity to be up there competing for that win again. So it's a tough decision to make, and it's not the most fun to ride around in the back, but sometimes it can give you that awesome opportunity to be competing for that trophy there at the end.
Justin, is that kind of what you had going through your mind there?
Honestly, I wish it was, because that'd make me look a lot smarter than what happened. We just got cut off with that wreck that happened. Like, all of the pack that I was in had to check up, so we lost the pack, and there were good cars leading the front pack. And I tried to pull us forward, but it wasn't happening. And then we started racing. We had to bide our time, wait for the caution to come out, and that was part of my luck from that to get back caught up.
Well, Justin, before we let you go, is there anybody that you want to say thank you to and help gets it done for you out there on the racetrack?
Just want to thank you, Joey, for showing us the Roush and the PG-13 boys to the Roush races and letting us run here. Brent, my brother, with Black Magic, just working together through various leagues this year. Just Paul Gibson, Trent Brown, all the guys PG-13. It's been a fun year racing.
Yeah, definitely. That was your second place finisher in the first duel race, Justin Kirby. And before we start to wrap things up, Trevor, right, I want to get back to Chris Buescher. Have you had a chance to look at that list of names yet?
I have, and I tell you,
I have a lot of thoughts. I think there were some awesome throwback paint schemes in there that I can really appreciate. But I tell you, one I'm feeling, I think it is going to be the 51 of Jeremy Roth. I've seen him take a lot of aggressive opportunities and big chances to try and pull that outer lane and make some big moves, and didn't feel like he had anybody that committed to him or gave him any luck. And I know there were several that had very similar ideas and similar times, but I felt like I seen him several times take a chance and try and pull something off, and was not able to see any help come to help it materialize. So I think that's where I'm leaning here.
Awesome. Well, you heard it. Jeremy Roth in that number 51. That was the Kohler's Generator RFK themed paint out there. So always great to have that representation. He will be taking home that 1 month VRS subscription, courtesy of VRS and Chris Buescher picking you out of the crowd. Nice job.
Right on.
Hopefully everyone else doesn't hate me.
Yeah. And they have just unfollowed you on Instagram. So
and we've lost 25 followers.
There it goes. No, actually, Chris, what is your Instagram over here? Is it Chris Buescher?
I think it's C_Buescher, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. That's exactly what it is. C_Buescher, guys. Go give Chris a follow there on his Instagram and get behind the scenes of what Chris is doing on race day. But no, again, Chris, we've done this many times before, and hopefully we'll do it many times going forward, from podcast to iRacing broadcast. We've always had a great time, and we always appreciate getting your insight and truly insight on really what's going on, and it brings a whole nother element to these guys that are able to come out here and compete on iRacing that look up to people such as yourself, Chris. So again, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Jack, you got any last words there?
We got another good race in the books. I think that's those are my words.
Yes, we did. Well, there it is, guys. The RoushParts.com Duel at Daytona. Our partners, Continental Tire, Hagerty Motorsport, Reg, and VRS. Thank you guys so much for the continued support through the Roush Performance Esports. Hats off to you, Joey. Thank you for pulling this all together. T-Bones for hanging out with us. Even behind the scenes, we got Harold Darnell hanging out with us tonight on Race Control. Wanted to thank you guys so much. And heck, what's a broadcast without Jack Roush? That was pretty cool to have Jack come in and chat up for a little bit. So super cool to have that. We're gonna have to rewatch this one a couple times, but let everyone know what's going on over here on the Roush Performance Esports page, the official page of Roush Performance. And we hope everyone has a great night, and we'll see you guys next time.